The hallway of Roosevelt High in Texas buzzed with teenage chaos. Lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking, voices echoing off tile floors. Zariah walked with her head low, a second-hand hoodie hanging past her waist, sleeves hiding her clenched fists. Her skin was dark and smooth, her braids tucked into a messy bun, and her silence had become her shield. She never looked anyone in the eye. That's how you stayed invisible in a mostly white school where stairs could burn hotter than the Texas sun. She kept her distance, counting her steps, hoping the day would pass without incident. But today wasn't just any day. She rounded the corner to her locker, only to stop cold. 3 white cheerleaders were already waiting: Brooke, Sierra, and Lauren, the kind of girls who smiled for teachers but sneered when no one was looking. Brooke, tall with piercing blue eyes and a cheer jacket zipped halfway, stepped forward like she owned the hallway. "Well, look who finally crawled out of the shadows," Brooke said, loud enough for nearby students to turn their heads. Zariah's heart began pounding. Her grip tightened on the worn spiral notebook she carried like armor. She kept her eyes on her lock, turning the dial. "You always this quiet?" Lauren chimed in, fake curious, like Zariah was some science project. Zariah didn't respond. Her fingers trembled as she tried to finish the combination. Brooke smirked. Maybe this'll help loosen her up. And then it happened. So fast, the world seemed to pause. Brooke reached forward, grabbed Zariah's shirt near the collar, and yanked hard. The fabric tore with a violent rip, exposing the top of Zariah's bra and the strap across her shoulder. A gasp rippled through the hallway. Someone's phone was already up, recording. Zariah froze. Heat rushed to her face. Her hands flew to cover herself, but the laughter hit her before she could move. "Whoa! Didn't know the library mouse had claws!" Sierra laughed. "Bet she won't show her face again," Lauren added, already posting something to Snapchat. The hallway wasn't a school anymore. It was a stadium. Everyone had front-row seats to her humiliation. Some students turned away. Most didn't. They stared, eyes wide, waiting to see if she'd cry. Zariah couldn't breathe. She wanted to disappear into the floor, melt into her locker, anything. Her hands were shaking. Her body locked in place. Her throat tightened like it was wired shut. And then, just under the roar of her own pulse, she heard something. A voice she hadn't heard in months. Her grandfather's voice. He'd been a Marine, a man of few words and sharp discipline. He taught her how to move, how to breathe, how to defend without hate. "They want you afraid. Don't give them what they want." That voice, calm and steel-strong, echoed in her mind. Zariah blinked, her hands still holding the torn fabric, her chest rising and falling like waves crashing in a storm. Brooke leaned in again, mocking. "What's wrong? You gonna run back to your little rat hole?" The hallway laughed again. But this time, Zariah's eyes lifted. Not to the floor, not to the crowd, to Brooke. And in that 1 second, something inside her shifted. She didn't speak. She didn't scream. She just stared. And Brooke, still smiling, didn't realize her own smile had begun to fade. Because something in Zariah's face had changed. It was the calm before a storm. The hallway didn't know it yet, but they had just watched a match drop into gasoline. And Zariah? She wasn't running. Not this time. Zariah hadn't always been this silent. Back in Atlanta before the move, before everything fell apart, she was just a normal kid, with a backpack too big for her shoulders and a laugh that came easy. Her grandfather, A retired Marine used to pick her up from elementary school every day. He was the kind of man who didn't say much, but when he did, it landed deep, like a stone tossed into still water. He taught her judo in the backyard, said, "It's not about hurting people. It's about knowing you could, and choosing not to." She was 7 then, throwing pillows, stumbling through throws. He'd chuckle and correct her stance without even looking. "Back straight, Z." He passed away just before her 13th birthday. Then came the move. Her mother, overwhelmed and broke, sent Zariah to live with Grandma Joyce in a small Texas town where black faces were rare and white stares followed you like shadows. Roosevelt High was bigger, colder, and louder than her old school. The hallways echoed with jokes she wasn't meant to hear and rules she was expected to follow without complaint. Her first week, a teacher called her by the wrong name, twice. When she corrected him, he narrowed his eyes like she was the problem. So she stopped correcting. She stopped raising her hand. She stopped speaking unless it was required. Silence, she learned, was safer than standing out. Grandma Joyce told her to keep her head low and stay out of white folks' way. It wasn't cruel advice. It was survival, passed down like recipes and prayer. Zariah listened. She made herself small, invisible. She avoided gym class, skipped assemblies, sat in the last row in every class. She knew which bathrooms to avoid, which lockers belonged to the troublemakers, which stairwell had cameras, and which one didn't. She walked like a ghost through Roosevelt High. But silence came with a price. Sometimes it meant they ignored you. Other times it meant they targeted you, because they thought you wouldn't fight back. She saw it happen to others. One Latino boy accused of stealing headphones, just because he walked past a locker. A biracial girl sent home for breaking dress code, even though 3 white girls wore the same exact outfit. No one raised their voice. No one questioned it. Everyone just moved on. Zariah buried herself in books, old notebooks filled with judo techniques, and the memory of her grandfather's gravel-rough voice saying, "Control the room, even when no one sees you." But Roosevelt High didn't make space for girls like Zariah. She wasn't loud enough to be noticed, and not light enough to be accepted. And no matter how quiet she stayed, the cheerleaders noticed her anyway. Brooke, especially. Maybe it was because Zariah didn't laugh at their jokes. Maybe it was because she never looked impressed. Or maybe it was just because Zariah existed. And that, to girls like Brooke, was offense enough. Whatever the reason, it started small. A shoulder bump in the hallway, a rude comment in gym, a locker smeared with something that smelled like old mayo. Zariah didn't respond, didn't react. But the more silent she stayed, the louder the cruelty became. And now, after that hallway moment, after her shirt had been torn in front of dozens of phones and faces, she wasn't just invisible anymore. She was a target. And the worst part? She still didn't know if fighting back would make her strong, or just more alone. The next few days after the locker incident were a blur. No one came to check on Zariah. No teacher pulled her aside. No counselor asked if she was okay. Not even a warning for Brooke or the other girls. In fact, the cheer squad walked the halls like nothing happened, laughing louder than usual. Zariah noticed it all. The way some students stared at her like she was contagious. The way others avoided her altogether, afraid to be caught in the blast radius. Someone had uploaded the video to Snapchat. Then it jumped to Instagram. A few seconds long, just enough to show her shirt being torn, the crowd gasping, and her frozen like a deer in headlights. The caption read, Mouse got mauled, mouse emoji explosion, emoji nail polish emoji. It spread like wildfire. Even kids she didn't know whispered when she passed. Some laughed, others just looked uncomfortable, like witnessing her pain was a social inconvenience. She sat alone at lunch, her tray untouched. In class, she kept her hoodie up, even when teachers told her to take it off. She didn't care. Her hoodie was the only thing keeping her together. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the rip, felt the air hit her skin, saw the way Brooke smiled. It wasn't just bullying anymore. It was a show, and Zariah had been cast as the entertainment. In gym class, Lauren accidentally tripped her during warm-ups. When Zariah fell, the whole group laughed. Brooke offered her hand with a smirk, then pulled it away just before Zariah could grab it. "Oops," she said. "Reflex." In the locker room, someone smeared lotion inside her shoes. Another day, someone switched her gym clothes with a pair 2 sizes too small. She said nothing. She recorded nothing. Because if she told anyone, she knew exactly how it would go. They'd say, "Are you sure it wasn't a misunderstanding?" They'd ask, "Did you provoke them?" They'd smile and nod, and behind their backs, nothing would change. That Friday, she went to her locker between classes. The hallway was quieter than usual. As she turned the combination, she heard it, the fake whispering behind her. "She's so weird. Did you see the video? I heard she's got a thing for Brooke's boyfriend." She closed her eyes, inhaled, and tried to focus. Just get your books. Go to class. Ignore them. But before she could even open the locker, a shadow cast over her again. Brooke, Sierra, Lauren. Same trio, same predator smile. But this time, there was a crowd already gathering, like they'd planned it. "Hey, Zariah," Brooke sang, her voice syrupy. "Did you miss us?" Zariah didn't reply. "Cute hoodie," Sierra said. "Bet it looks better off." Before Zariah could react, Brooke lunged forward, grabbed the front of the hoodie, and yanked hard. This time it didn't just tear. It split, clean down the middle, exposing her shirt underneath, stretching the fabric. There was a pause, a beat, and then laughter erupted. Phones were out again. Lauren raised hers like a trophy. "Say cheese, mouse!" Zariah's chest tightened. Her breath came in shallow bursts. She clutched the torn hoodie, fists trembling. But something inside her, something brittle, cracked. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She looked up and saw herself reflected in a classroom window. Shaken, small, alone. But then she looked again, and something else stared back. Her grandfather's eyes, his stance, his fire. Zariah's breath slowed, her fingers loosened. She let the hoodie fall. Brooke raised her phone closer. "Smile, freak." That was it. The snap. The crowd leaned in. Another show. But they weren't ready for the next scene. And neither was Brooke. The hallway was dead quiet. Zariah didn't blink. Brooke still had her phone up, ready to record the humiliation. What Brooke didn't realize was she had already recorded too much. Zariah's fingers moved slowly, deliberately, as she stepped forward. Brooke laughed nervously, glancing at her friends. "What's wrong, Mouse? Gonna hiss at me?" No reply. Brooke reached for her again, maybe to rip more, maybe to shove her back. But Zariah caught her wrist. Not hard, not loud, just controlled. The hallway froze. Zariah's stance shifted, one foot behind the other, Her grip rotated. Her shoulders turned. It was automatic. A memory carved into muscle. Uchi mata, inner thigh throw, her grandfather's favorite. Before Brooke could snatch her arm back, Zariah pivoted, one clean turn, then lifted. Brooke's scream was cut short as her feet left the ground. She flipped over Zariah's hip like she weighed nothing. The crowd gasped. Phones flew higher into the air. And then, thud! Brooke slammed onto the hallway floor, air knocked out of her lungs. Her phone clattered and skidded across the tiles. For a full 2 seconds, no one breathed. Sierra's mouth hung open. Lauren just stared. Brooke rolled to her side, gasping. Zariah stood above her, calm, unshaken. It wasn't rage in her face. It was focus. Sierra charged next, yelling, "What the hell?" Zariah didn't flinch. She stepped into Sierra's path. One pivot, one grip behind the elbow. Osoto Gari. Outer reap. Sierra's feet left the ground. Her back hit the tile hard. Another cheerleader down. Another gasp from the crowd. Lauren backed away, hands raised, stammering, I didn't touch her, I swear." Zariah didn't move toward her. She didn't have to. Lauren ran. The hallway burst into a storm of noise. Some laughed, some screamed. Most just stared, shocked, breathless. Teachers spilled out of classrooms. Phones were still rolling, dozens of clips already uploading to Instagram, TikTok, private group chats. Zariah didn't care. Her breath was steady, her hands relaxed. She wasn't angry. She was done being prey. Principal Reynolds pushed through the crowd, red-faced and panicked. "What is going on here? Who started this?" Everyone pointed in different directions. Voices blurred, fingers aimed at Brooke, at Zariah, at the ground. Brooke sat up slowly, dazed. "She attacked us," she wheezed. "She's crazy." Zariah finally spoke, her voice clear. "Number. I defended myself." It cut through the noise like a razor. Principal Reynolds stared at her, stunned. You threw them?" Zariah said nothing. She didn't need to. The videos would speak for her. The crowd parted as the security guard arrived, radio buzzing. Brooke tried to stand and stumbled. Sierra was still on the floor, blinking at the ceiling. Lauren had vanished. Zariah stood alone, surrounded by whispers. "She just flipped them like a movie. Did you see that?" "She's not who we thought she was." The security guard gently touched Zariah's shoulder. "Come with me, please." She didn't resist. She turned once, just once, to look back. Not at the bullies, not at the teachers, but at the crowd. And for the first time since she stepped into Roosevelt High, they looked away first. Zariah sat across from Principal Reynolds, her hands folded in her lap. The office was too cold, too quiet. The framed degrees on the wall didn't make the silence feel any less hostile. Reynolds leaned forward, her mouth tight, fingers steepled. "You understand the seriousness of what happened, Zariah?" Zariah didn't answer. She didn't have to. Reynolds continued anyway. "2 students were injured. One says she may have a sprained wrist. Another has bruising on her back. Do you deny putting your hands on them?" "I defended myself," Zariah said, voice calm. A pause. Then a sigh. "You're new here, so maybe you don't understand how things work at Roosevelt. We resolve conflicts verbally, not with physical violence." Zariah blinked. "So That's what they were calling it now. Conflict. She remembered her shirt being ripped open, the laughter, the phone cameras, the sting of public shame. Conflict? Reynolds slid a white slip across the desk. 3 days detention, starting today. You'll eat lunch in room 107. No phone, no socializing, no exceptions. Zariah stared at the slip. You're punishing me? It's not punishment, Reynolds said too quickly. It's reflection time. You need to reflect on how you handled things. Zariah's hands curled into fists on her thighs. If I were white, would I be sitting here? The principal stiffened. Excuse me? Zariah's eyes didn't waver. If I were blonde, if I cheered at pep rallies, if my name were Madison instead of Zariah, would you call that reflection time then? Reynolds inhaled sharply. This isn't about race. Zariah stood. It always is. She took the slip and walked out without another word. Word of the flip spread faster than any fire. Clips racked up thousands of views by lunchtime. Black girl body slams cheer squad. Karate Kid moment in Texas school. Memes, slow-mo edits, even a dub over with action music. But most of the teachers didn't laugh. They avoided eye contact. Some even sent her dirty looks. Brooke's mother came to school in person, marched into the office like she owned the building. Word traveled fast. She threatened to sue, said Zariah was a danger to others, said she had militant behavior and anger issues. No one talked about the bullying. No one mentioned the first video. In history class, Zariah heard 2 girls whisper, "She's scary. Did you see her eyes?" In biology, her lab partner asked to be switched. In gym, the teacher made her sit out just to be safe. Isolation came fast. The same students who had cheered in the hallway now walked past her like she didn't exist. Except for one. A kid named Marcus, black, like her, 2 grades up. He stopped her by the vending machine one afternoon and said, "That was badass," then walked off. That 2-second moment stuck with her longer than the 2-hour detention. Her grandma tried not to cry when she read the detention slip. "Baby, I know you were raised better than this." "I didn't start it, Grandma." "I know," she said, "but they only see one thing when they look at us. Doesn't matter what's true." Zariah stared at the dinner plate in front of her. Half the rice was cold. Nothing tasted right. She stood up and went to her room without saying another word. That night, she scrolled through her phone under the covers. She found the video again, watched it without sound, over and over, until her face became something she didn't recognize. In the detention room the next day, she sat alone. White walls, buzzing light. No clock. No one else. Until the door creaked open and a tall, quiet teacher walked in. A sub she didn't know. He nodded, sat across from her, opened a laptop. After a few minutes, he looked up. "You trained in Judo?" Zariah flinched. "What?" "That flip. That was a classic inner thigh throw. Clean technique. My daughter trains too." Zariah didn't answer. He smiled. "You don't have to say anything. Just for what it's worth. If that were my kid being harassed like that, I'd hope she fought back too." He didn't say more. He didn't need to. Zariah looked down, her eyes stinging. For the first time in days, she didn't feel crazy, just tired. Tired of being silent. Tired of letting them write the story. Maybe it was time to write her own. The school library had always been Zariah's favorite place, Not because she loved reading, but because it was the only room where nobody talked to her. No eyes watching her from behind lockers. No whispers under fake smiles. Just silence. But that changed when she met Nova Washington. Nova was a senior. Thin braids, chipped black nail polish, and a laptop covered in tech stickers. She ran the school's coding club, not officially, just underground. Teachers didn't ask too many questions, and Nova didn't offer answers. Zariah had noticed her once or twice, always in the corner, typing like the keyboard owed her money. That day, Nova slid into the chair across from her like she'd done it 100 times before. "I know who hacked your socials." Zariah blinked. "What?" Nova turned her laptop around. On the screen were screenshots, IP addresses, timestamps, private messages, the posts that mocked Zariah's mom, the photoshopped image of her as a homeless girl, the fake tweets. "They left fingerprints all over," Nova said. "Amateurs." Zariah stared at the screen, mouth dry. "They made it look like random trolls," Nova added. "But it's not. Your account was hacked by someone named R. Kessler." That name made Zariah freeze. "Kessler?" Nova nodded. "He used Brooke's phone, but the real hack came from a different laptop. Want to know the crazy part?" Zariah leaned in, heart thudding. R. Kessler is Ryan Kessler, senior. He used to be a judo student. Got kicked out of regional finals 3 years ago. Zariah's voice was barely a whisper. "My brother beat someone named Kessler years ago." Nova's eyebrows lifted. "Well, seems like Big Bro made an enemy. And now little sis is the target." Zariah leaned back, stunned. So this wasn't just bullying. It was revenge. A grudge passed down like a curse. Nova snapped the laptop shut. "Look, I've seen this before. Quiet girls get stomped on. You finally hit back. Now they want to smear you before people start seeing the truth." Zariah's eyes narrowed. "What truth?" Nova grinned. "That you're a problem now. A problem they can't control." The words sat in Zariah's chest like fire. She thought about all the lies, the videos, the silence. About Brooke walking free while she served detention for defending herself. She didn't want to feel small anymore. "So," Zariah said slowly, "what if we don't just fight back?" Nova leaned in. "You thinking old school?" "I'm thinking public." Over the next 2 weeks, they planned everything. Nova gathered digital receipts, emails, snap messages, fake account registrations. She even traced one of the accounts to the principal's niece. Brooke had protection the whole time. Zariah started training again. Not just physically, mentally. She stayed quiet in school, but her silence wasn't fear anymore. It was focus. At home, she pulled her old Judo gi out of the closet. The sleeves were short now, the belt frayed, but it still felt like armor. Her grandma watched from the hallway. "You really gonna stir all this up again?" Zariah didn't stop tying her belt. "They already stirred it. I'm just finishing it." The pep rally was coming, a school-wide event. Cameras, parents, staff, every student in one room. Perfect stage. Zariah signed up to perform. The school thought she was doing a cultural poem. And, technically, she was. Just not the kind they expected. Nova preloaded a custom slideshow on the school's projector system. With one click, every screen in the gym would show the truth. The racist posts, the bullying screenshots, the evidence pointing to Brooke, and Ryan Kessler. The only thing left was timing. Jamal from the martial arts club was the only one she told. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said, "If you're doing this, we'll have your back." Zariah didn't realize how much she needed to hear that. The club met after school every day that week. They sparred in silence, practiced forms, but there was something different now. The way they stood around her, the way they nodded when she walked in. She wasn't alone anymore. The night before the rally, Nova handed her a flash drive. "Insert it in the AV booth laptop when you get on stage. Everything will happen automatically." "What if it doesn't work?" Nova smiled. "It will." Zariah took the drive and held it like it weighed something heavier than plastic. It felt like justice, like a loaded truth finally ready to fire. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in her life, she wasn't scared of being seen. She was scared of being heard. But it was time, because if she didn't tell the story, Brooke would. And Brooke's version was a lie. Bleachers groaned under the weight of students and parents. School banners hung from the ceiling, and the AV screen behind the stage flickered with the looping mascot logo. The energy buzzed loud. Cheers, chatter, phone flashes. Nobody suspected what was coming. Backstage, Zariah adjusted the flash drive in her pocket. Her hands were sweaty. Her heart beat steady but fast, like drums before a battle. "You good?" Nova asked beside her. Zariah nodded. "Ready." Brooke was up next, of course. The cheer team always performed mid-rally when the crowd was loudest. She took the mic, flipping her ponytail, all teeth and fake sparkle. "This routine is dedicated to school unity," Brooke shouted. "Unity!" Zariah almost laughed. Brooke performed like nothing had ever happened, like she hadn't torn a girl's shirt open in a hallway, like she hadn't posted lies or faked screenshots. But that was about to end. As Brooke bowed to applause, Zariah stepped onto the stage. The applause faded when people saw who it was. She wasn't a cheerleader. She wasn't popular. She was the girl from the video. Zariah walked to the center, mic in one hand, flash drive in the other. "This," she began, "is for every student who was told to stay quiet, for every time the system protected the wrong person, for every moment I let someone else tell my story." She turned to the AV table at the back. Nova gave a subtle nod. Zariah slid the flash drive into the laptop. The screen behind her went black, then lit up with white text. "The truth you weren't meant to see." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Images appeared, screenshots of the hacked accounts, messages from Ryan Kessler, the fake posts about Zariah's family. One by one, faces turned pale. Brooke's name attached to every file. The last image showed Brooke and Ryan in a snap video, laughing. Brooke's voice clear. "Don't worry, Zariah's too scared to say anything. She always freezes." The crowd murmured, then rose into full-blown outrage. A teacher near the front stood. "Shut that off!" But it was too late. The students had already seen it. Phones were out, cameras rolling. Zariah looked out at the crowd. Her voice didn't shake. "I didn't flip them to be violent. I flipped them because I was done being small." The audience erupted. Students shouted. Some clapped, some screamed. A chant started in the back. "Let her speak! Let her speak!" Brooke bolted toward the AV booth, but Jamal and two martial arts club members stepped in her path. Not with force, just presence. Enough to make her stop. Ryan Kessler tried to slip out the side doors, but Nova had already warned the staff. Principal Reynolds rushed the stage, face pale. "Zariah, that's enough. This is highly inappropriate." "No," Zariah said calmly. What was inappropriate was letting a racist bully walk free while punishing the girl who defended herself. The silence was deeper than anything the gym had ever held. Zariah turned back to the crowd. "This isn't just about me. It's about every black kid who's been called angry for standing up. Every kid who got detention while their bully got praise. We're tired. And we're not asking any more. We're telling you, it ends now." The entire gym stood. Not just students, parents, teachers, even the janitor near the bleachers, clapping, some crying. Principal Reynolds opened her mouth, then closed it. The screen behind Zariah faded to black. The truth had already landed. Later that week, everything changed. Brooke was suspended indefinitely. Her mother threatened to sue, but backed down once the district attorney opened a formal investigation into the harassment. Ryan Kessler was expelled, his college recs pulled. He sent an apology email to Zariah, but she never opened it. The district issued a statement on racial sensitivity and zero tolerance for cyberbullying, but most students knew who forced that change. Zariah didn't return to detention. She returned to the martial arts club. Now, kids lined up to join. Even the same ones who once laughed behind their phones. Jamal smiled every time she walked in. "Told you you were a leader." Nova and Zariah stayed close. Different worlds. Same fire. Sophie from Yearbook asked if she could feature Zariah in the senior issue, even though she wasn't a senior yet. She said her story mattered. But it wasn't just about the story. It was about what came after. Zariah got an invite to speak at a youth justice panel in D.C., sponsored by a civil rights organization that had seen the viral video. On the day of the flight, her grandma hugged her extra tight. "Your grandfather would be proud." Zariah smiled. "I know, I am too." She boarded the plane not as a victim, not even as a fighter, but as something more. A voice. And this time, nobody could mute her.